Good morning and Assalamu alaikum everyone. Thank you for joining us today and thank you for your patience. We just wanted to make sure enough people join us today before we start. We hope you're all keeping well and safe. Thank you for your time again for this webinar. Weekend 135, a Young Learners Course Overview. I'll give you a brief overview of the session. This session is specifically designed for elementary level supervisors, where you will learn in-class and online teaching for first semester course books, weekend 1, weekend 3, and weekend 5. Before we proceed any further, I'm just going to pause and check if the audio connection is working okay. There is a hand icon on the right side of your screen. You will find the hand icon just below your name. So where you see your name, the hand icon should be there. Can you please click on the hand icon if you can hear me? And I'll give you a few minutes to locate the hand icon. Excellent, lots of hands going up, perfect. So we're clear on the sound then. Thank you. Your moderators for today are on the screen, myself, Sarah Shuja, along with my colleagues. We will be there in the background to answer any questions you may have or if you face any trouble during the webinar. I know you know how to use the function already, so you can use the chat or the Q&A. Just pop in a question and we will get back to you. And finally, I'll move on to the wonderful speaker we have for today, Ms. Danai, who is a teacher, educator, editor, content developer, and also an author. You can see all the lovely, amazing stuff Danai has done. She has successfully delivered several training workshops for supervisors and teachers in Saudi Arabia, and she's also co-authored books in Saudi Arabia. So thank you, Danai, for your valuable time in joining us today.
Thank you.
Great. Let's cover a few housekeeping slides before I pass on to Danai. Just some information for you for this seamless webinar experience. If you're facing any connectivity issues with the audio, we recommend you calling us, although we checked this earlier and most of you can hear my voice, so we should be fine there. We also recommend closing down any high networking apps such as Netflix, YouTube, and any gaming platforms, as this will affect your bandwidth during the webinar, so we wouldn't want that. You will be receiving your certificate of participation after we complete the first semester course book webinar series. So this means you need to watch out for an email to download your certificate after November 19th when we finish the whole series. There will be Q&A opportunities at the end of the session. So you will be able to ask your questions and we'll get back to you. You must have noticed you're all muted, but you can engage with us during the webinar through Q&A or the chat box. Q&A is located on the right-hand side of your screen. We encourage you to ask any questions and we will try to cover this as we get along. You can also use the chat box to have any comments or engage with the presenter. Lastly, there's also the polling function to engage with the speaker. It's on the right side of your screen. So the place where the hand icon was, you will see a small microphone, an icon of a microphone. If you click on that, you will be able to see the feedback function. Our moderators will be here to help you out in the session. Someone has just asked, am I in the right meeting? So this meeting, this webinar is an elementary session webinar for supervisors. So I'll repeat, yes, elementary session has begun. Without any further delay, I will just pass on to Danai now, who can then begin.
Thank you.
I'm just
Thank you, Suresh.
Thank you, Danai.
Is this too loud, not loud enough?
I can hear you all right.
Okay, I hope everybody else can hear me.
Too loud.
Okay, fine. Okay, yes, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I am sorry about this. It's good to be speaking to colleagues from in Saudi Arabia. I haven't actually been back for a few years, and well, I miss going back, and I'm sorry I can't see you. But anyway, I'll do my best. Please do ask questions or do comment as we carry on. And so, right, okay, so let's carry on. Sorry, Suresh.
Yes, Sana, you should be able to change your slides on the left side.
Yeah, well, doesn't seem to work.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry about this. Okay. So I don't know if there are people among you who have attended seminars in the past about using We Can, or if you have been in any seminars that we did in the past. Okay, please let me know if you have. Okay, first of all, before we even start talking about the course, let's think about the learners. And the reason I want us to think about the learners is not for theoretical reasons. It's very, very practical. Given the fact that also, as I understand, some of you or all of you do need to teach online, digital presence is an issue that is not solved very easily. So it's important that we do focus on learners. Again, not for theoretical reasons, but for very practical reasons indeed. Okay, these are some of the things that young learners are saying about learning. We're learning to understand and use English. Notice that they're interested in understanding and using English. They're not so interested in learning about English. We're learning to understand and cooperate with adults. It's not very easy for children to cooperate with adults. If you, in a sense, lower yourself, or if you sit in the middle of a crowd of adults, and you're the only person seated, and you have to look up all the time, you begin to understand and appreciate how children feel. We're learning to share things with other people. Okay, children who have siblings, brothers, sisters, and so on, might be good or bad at sharing things or learning somehow, but some kids are not very good about sharing with people they don't know all that well. So that's a new thing as well. Get used to our bodies growing. This is a very important point, I think, that we shouldn't forget. While the children are in class or sitting in front of a computer, expected to behave themselves, so to speak, growing doesn't stop. This is an ongoing process. And actually, it's not all that simple. It is one of the things that makes children want to move. So a child that starts kicking under the table or moving around or fiddling with something is not misbehaving. It's a need. So one of the best things to do is to incorporate movement in your class, or suggest to teachers that they do incorporate movement as a matter of course. In other words, for example, if you're teaching online, make sure you ask your students at some point to stand up, get a hold of the back of the chair that they've been sitting in, and walk around it just 2 or 3 times, and then sit down. If you're in class, you can do it in a way that's a lot more practical. Assign different duties to different children. I know some of you do it already, so there are, on a rotation basis, children are responsible for the board for making sure that you've got markers or chalk or whatever you're using for picking up things and so on and so forth. Now, the reason, again, that we do that is to incorporate some movement so that we don't have the usual problem of, especially with young teachers who feel that they can't control things. It doesn't matter if children move. In fact, they should move, so incorporate. We're learning to be careful. Again, doing things carefully, not making mistakes, doing well, that's a very difficult thing to deal with. I know they've been in school for like 3 years when you start teaching them English and all that, but it's still quite a job. So they're learning to live and work with others, their classmates, their friends, teachers, new teachers. I think you're all aware of how difficult it is quite often for children to change teachers, right? It's tough. It's hard. We're learning to read and write Arabic. Very important. But what we need to bear in mind is that literacy in Arabic is really a great priority. It's a priority for them. But they have been speaking and developing this language for quite a few years. That is not necessarily true with English. So we need to be careful not to confuse things. With English, we need to focus on spoken language to begin with. We're learning to handle responsibility and a lot more. Just a small point here. If you want them to be responsible, you need to also give them a bit of freedom, a bit of decision making. Responsibility is not really going to be developed if they can't take on some decision making. Okay. And this is what they often say they need. We need someone who listens. You know, it's like adults sometimes don't really listen to children because they don't want them to disturb them because we're busy, we're doing other things, we're in a hurry. So it's good to listen to children. And actually, when it comes to teachers, the most important skills for a teacher is active listening. What I mean by that is that if you have a teacher that speaks all the time and hardly listens to the students, that teacher is not going to know much about her students, right? How will you be able to assess a student if you can't really listen to what they can do and what they can say? Okay, to feel safe. They do need to feel safe. Fear is not necessarily the best way of doing things. They need time to think. This is also something that we seem to overlook sometimes because we think children don't have to think too long. We just tell them to do things and they do them. Well, not quite true. We need to give them time to think. We need to train them to think, encourage them to think. Okay, we've talked about movement. They need to play and have fun. So having fun while learning is a very good recipe, actually. It's good to bear in mind. Also, they need to be able to rest and be quiet. Again, something not to forget. Children don't necessarily want to be active all the time. If you push them to be too active, you know what happens. Things get very, very difficult because they get very tired. And finally, they need to know, we need to know we can do things. So they need some kind of acknowledgement. They need your approval. They need praise. And it has to be real because you can't fool them. You can't tell them they've done well when they haven't. And they need to know they're good. Okay, that's the thing about children. Now, you've got your hand out and all sorts of other questions there, but let me go back to, let me carry on with, with We Can, the course series. I understand that you have been using it for a while, that people have been using it for a while. So I'm not exactly sure how far you've got in the series. I would really appreciate some information about that. Okay, so series components, just to make sure that everybody knows about them and actually uses them or can use them. I'm not sure that we're going to be able to look at every single thing in this first session, but I'll do what I can. Okay, so Student's Book and Workbook, you know, it's a combo. It's a combo edition. It's combined. Teacher's Guide, please do encourage teachers to use the Teacher's Guide. It's very practical. We'll look at examples a bit later. Very practical, very clear, and yes, it suggests things that you can do in class with large classes, small classes, medium-sized classes. It doesn't matter. And in fact, there are notes to help you depending on the type of class you've got. Class audio program. Now, in the past, I know that some people had problems with this. I expect, you know, things are not, things have improved. I hope so, at least. Okay, why use the audio? Well, use the audio because you want the children to be exposed to natural English, to connected speech, okay? You don't want everything to happen on the basis of words on paper or words on screen. You need to expose them to spoken language. Flashcards. There are flashcards, there are packs of flashcards, but again, do encourage teachers to prepare additional flashcards with pictures and so on. If they want to suggest that students prepare some flashcards, that always works very nicely, and it's something that you do basically, it's almost flipping the classroom again. You can, on a rotation basis, you can assign flashcard making to different kids, and they love it. And they're free to either draw or find a picture, cut it out and paste it on cardboard. But if you're going to do that, it's good to have card that's cut up the same size so you can use it in class to practice. If you're working online, really easy because you can basically choose pictures, put them on your screen, and use your cursor to point to the pictures to prompt as you're working. TPR, I can see a comment here. Yes, total physical response. Total physical response is all over the course, actually. Most of the, we'll see examples anyway. Total physical response, yes. Great, in class. What do you do when you're teaching online? We'll talk about that when we get to it. But again, you can do some of the total physical response online if you have video, obviously. I'm not sure how feasible that is in all cases. Poster pack. There is a pack of posters on some key areas that we're going to see examples of. the Learning Center, which, as I understand, is something that is available to teachers. Oh, sorry, to students, not teachers. But actually, it might be a good idea to consider using it in class, particularly if you're teaching online or whatever. Now, the interactive workbook and the interactive whiteboard software, an active book. The active book is for the student, okay? And testing program. Now, again, here we have a bit of an issue in that in the beginning, we're focusing on spoken language. How do we assess? Well, we can assess through listening. We can get them to listen and take pictures. We can get them to do all sorts of things. There are some ideas. Writing, yes, it's important, but we do have a bit of an issue with writing, haven't we? I mean, first of all, because it's a totally different script. Secondly, we have directionality problems. So it takes a bit of getting used to. So we need to give them the time to do that. All right, so basically in the first semester, we're going to be looking at 1, 3, and 5 for different forms. Am I going too fast, too slow? Hello? Any ideas?
You're going fine for me.
Okay.
And I think, yes, the comments have started coming in. You're good. It's okay. Now if I got back to your message, everything is good, fine, good. Okay, we can go on.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay. Now, what we're looking at here is one of the posters. This page is also in your book, speaking about total physical response. Okay? This is a good case for that. It will have to be done through total physical response. We don't want the children to necessarily be able to use the language, so put your bags away, take out your pencils, and so on and so forth. But you will find that most kids are very eager to try and say them anyway. So if you've got a class that feels confident enough to be able to use some of the instructions to play teacher, then obviously that's the best way to go about this. But plenty, as I said, of total physical response. Now, one of the things you can do also online, what you can do is cover, if you like, cover the bubbles, the speech bubbles, so that they don't get distracted by the script, the written English. This is a very delicate point, isn't it? On the one hand, we want them to be exposed to written English, to hear it and see it so they can make the association. But on the other hand, we want them to develop listening skills and to understand the spoken language. But what's the point? Which is the point where written language stops being a distraction? Well, I think a bit later. So if you find that they are distracted by it, cover what is in the bubbles, number them, number each instruction, and if you're online and you want them to say the instruction, basically call out the number and get them to say it. If you haven't got a very large class, and you can actually see the students, I'm not sure what platform you might be using, you can do total physical response, where they might have to mime the activities rather than actually do them physically if they can't get a hold of everything, although it wouldn't be bad, it wouldn't be difficult to find a bag, pencil, and so on and so forth. That's some of the things that they'll need anyway. So you can see them on video, and if the rest of the students can see them on video, that's even better. You can also organize a TPR in groups, yeah? It doesn't have to be a single person. You can nominate, call out the names of 3 or 4 people and get them to act out actually what you instruct. Okay. Different type of poster. Beautiful nature. Okay, obviously you can use this. You can use it for vocabulary work. Now again, the words are written there. If you want to adapt it a little bit and remove the words, obviously you can use the pictures to prompt the words that they represent. If not, you can obviously, if you can use other photos, other pictures. This is a good case of asking students to find other photos to use. They tend to like that. I mean, you can ask them to find photos on the web, free photos that they can use, or other illustrations. And obviously the artists in class can create. Okay, this is a poster from Weekend 5. Present simple routines, of course. Okay, daily routine. Again, this can be developed into TPR as well, right? Okay, and because you also have some flashcards for these activities, you can mix them up, you can prompt the words, you can do whatever you like with them. Or jumble the order, ask them to say what is wrong, what should go back, or remove some of the pictures and ask them to try and say which ones are missing.
Danai,
yeah?
Sorry to interrupt. Can you just repeat the idea that you just mentioned about what can be done in class?
Okay.
That's the bit you just said like 2 minutes ago.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, one of the things you can do is TPR, yeah? You can use the poster and get them to say, do things, mime through it. But you might say, okay, if it's written and it shows in the picture, then it's very obvious, isn't it? Well, if you're in class, what happens is you ask a group of people to come to the front, turn their back towards the poster, and get the rest of the class to tell them what they're supposed to be doing, what they do in the daily routine. So if the rest of the class say, you get up, then obviously that's what they have to mime. You brush your teeth, that's what they have to mime. Okay, that's one possibility. The other possibility is you can mix up the photos, the order of the photos, or you can keep the photos as they are and remove the words. So you get them to provide the words for each photo, or you get them to look at the photos. This is a bit of a thinking thing, and we get into critical thinking. And is it too early and too soon? No, not at all. So they look at the pictures and they think, okay, what makes sense? And they try to put the pictures in the correct order. And then you can do your matching or simply get them to use the pictures and say what this person does as a matter of a daily routine, or what they do adapted to them, and so on and so forth. Is that better?
Thank you. There was just a few questions saying, can you please repeat this once more? Thanks, Danai.
Okay. Yes, I can see. I can see a comment about critical thinking. Absolutely. Yes, I agree. This is something that I wanted to get into a bit later, but let's deal with it now. We're going to be mentioning it tomorrow. I mean, not tomorrow, sorry, in the afternoon as well. Pictures, yeah, illustrations, photos, anything like that. Yeah, we do have an issue there, yeah. A lot of the times, teachers take it for granted. They take photos and any visual support for granted, and it's like cursory look, and just carry on. They don't allow children the time to look at the photos, identify what's in them, photos or images or illustrations, and then carry on with the work. It's not, we don't all see the same thing. We might be looking at the same thing. We know that. It's a matter of perception. But also, pictures, I think it's worth remembering. Pictures are like a representation, yeah? They're a code of the real word, so to speak. It's a type of writing, isn't it? So all the more reason to allow people to look at the picture, see what's in them. For example, in the picture where the little boy is doing homework, okay? Some people, if you ask people, what color is his pen? Do you think everybody will be able to say instantly what color it is? I don't think so. Some of them might notice, others don't not. So if you want to really help them, try and teach them how to look at a picture, okay? Let them look at the picture, say what they see, what they notice first. That has to do with totally personal individual filters, but it's good to also train learners to see as much as possible in images, yeah? Very useful for later on as well, as the image will always set the context. And we can't really have much in terms of meaning without the context. Okay, yes, picture-word association is very important in elementary level, but let's also remember that picture-word association is very important for spoken language as well. In other words, we need just the pictures very often to prompt the word, to elicit the word, not only read the word, not only associate with the written word. Okay. And I'm trying to keep an eye on the time. Okay. This is an example with flashcards. For example, in weekend 1, you have a pack of colored flashcards. Okay, what I did here was to just copy. You have this material, I believe. So I just copied and pasted the flashcards. You may want to have words or not have words at all, and just simply, if you're online, for example, just point, nominate a student, point, or students, point, so they can say what color it is. Okay, this, that, that, that. Yeah, and again, orange, purple, black, red, pink, green, and so on and so forth. And repeat, go through things again and again and again. I remember some work that we did in the past with some of your wonderful real classes. The children were very eager to say things that were different from one another. For obvious reasons, they wanted to show us that they knew things, that it wasn't just a matter of repeating. I think it's very important for people to realize that they do need to repeat things. They do need to be able to hear things a number of times, repeat them, and so on. When we get into management, we're going to look at some of what we can do in class. When it comes to lessons online, same thing again. Now, is anybody listening to them? Well, not quite, but if you send students to breakout rooms, obviously they can help each other use the cards and come up with the words. Drilling, yes, absolutely. We are at a time when we use whatever techniques and whatever activities work. Okay, so nothing is tainted, nothing is considered bad. Drilling is absolutely necessary, particularly at this stage. So this is why it's good to have a pack of cards, stand in the middle of the room if you're in the class, and go through just the pictures and get them to say the word. Get each person to say the word again and again and again, and quickly, and pace up, and so on. You can use the cards also to play games. We'll look at some examples, hopefully, if we have the time. Okay, more flashcards. Okay, same thing again. The reason I prepared these slides was to give you some ideas. I'm sure a lot of you have been doing this. Give you some ideas of what you can do with the flashcard. So basically, same thing again. Now, do you want to have the writing? Fine. If you don't want it, then you take this out. Okay? And you just use the cards to prompt the words for the different actions. Okay, I'll say one thing very quickly, and I'll be repeating that later in management issues. Again, let's always bear in mind, that we're dealing with young children. Okay. Oops, lost it. I saw a comment here. Let students use their language to express themselves as well. For example, talk about daily routines. Oh, absolutely. If they have the language, yes, of course they're going to be personalizing. We haven't even got there. But it's good to make sure that everybody is ready, more or less, to personalize. So if you do it too soon, and they haven't got the language, then obviously they can tell you in their mother tongue, but they can't do it in English. So it's not a matter of, it's not going to help them practice much. Now, what I was going to say before is, when you show a picture, for example, you show this, okay? You can use these flashcards for all sorts of things. Yeah, you don't have to use them just for the lessons where they appear. So you might want to use this for he's eating snacks, or he's eating a sandwich, or whatever you can say. Okay, so he's eating a sandwich. So you show this picture in some lesson to the kids or to one of the students, and you expect them to describe, to say what is happening in the picture. make sure, first of all, everybody has a chance to see the picture for some of the reasons that we mentioned before. Secondly, try not to always let the confident students answer. But having said that, if you think it's a difficult item, don't put the less confident students on the spot by asking them to answer difficult questions or by asking them to say things that you know are too demanding for them. Get them, train them to listen to their peers, to listen to other students as they're working, and have the chance to hear things a couple of times before they can repeat. But again, get your students used to the idea of repeating again and again and again. Okay? Okay, in terms of the features of the book, okay, the language is recycled, repeated, reviewed through different activities. Oops. I hope you can see this because it's not all. Okay. Students forget. And one of the things that I think is worth remembering is just because we tell students something is not reason enough for us to expect them to remember it. Remember what all of us have said, have heard at some point in our training, in our education, and so on. Tell me and I'll forget. Okay, show me and I'll remember. Involve me and I'll learn. So if we want children to remember things, let's give them the chance to be involved, to do things. Okay, and if we take into consideration multiple intelligences as well, giving them the chance to do it through pictures, through movement, through all sorts of things, is going to cover quite a range. Students and parents quite often want to know if there's progress. Now, there are goals in WeCan. So in every lesson, you have certain goals. So that's a very clear item, and it's very good for learners and parents to know, to notice, because it just gives them a very concrete piece of evidence. Learners don't have opportunities to use English in real situations on a day-to-day basis. Some do, some don't. However, if they're using computers and they're not too young, you know they use computers. If they're using, they're probably exposed to English, but maybe not speaking it all the time. But anyway, we are now dealing with generations that come into this with some exposure to the language, so it's not the way it used to be. So realistic situations are provided in the student's book to support realistic communication activities. Learners have a difficult time with rhythm, pronunciation, intonation. Okay, we're not trying to necessarily go for perfect pronunciation, and what is perfect pronunciation at the end of the day. But given the fact that younger learners really are quite strong in oral skills, it would be a shame not to take advantage of that. So in order to develop that aspect of things, you'll find chants, drum activities, role plays, and so on to help children. Yes, the goals, sorry, I just caught one of the comments. The goals are expressed through I can. Students have a hard time with reading and writing due to sounds that are different from their L1, script that is different from L1, directionality that is different from their L1. So listening and speaking are prioritized at all stages. Audio material can be used repeatedly to familiarize students with the sounds of the target language. Then phonics are used to help students associate sounds and letters. Now, taking into consideration multiple intelligences and all that, we do go for all kinds of activities, like even writing, forming the letters in the air. If we need to help particular students, we can use plasticine clay to get students to actually make things. One of my trainee teachers in the past, she had the facilities, and what she did was she really made cookies, letter cookies with the kids, and actually baked them. All right, so this is how units are broken up. Okay, 1 and 3 are quite similar. There are some differences in 5. Fun time, as you can see, comes up regularly in the second part of the lesson, and that represents an activity, usually, that involves more movement or is more like a game. Okay, so in We Can, all right, this is Unit 5. Okay, this is the talk time. Everything in this series is basically illustrated very, very simply, but also provides the meaning, the concept of whatever you're teaching. So what's this? What's that? Very easy for the students to do, to set up, to do as an activity. Okay. Practice the talks in pairs. How do you do it online? Breakout rooms. Act out the talks in pairs. Same thing with act out. Now, if you look at the other page, fun time, trace, then point and say. So number and the object that is connected to this number. Now, if you look at the bottom, you will see the goals. I can ask someone, what's this, what's that, and get the answer. I can point and say, this is an apple, and that's a book. So if you look at also those little boxes, this serves a dual purpose, yeah? Using this for objects that are closer to you, using that for objects that are further away, as well as just highlighting this is an apple, that's a book. Does it matter if they make mistakes? No, not at all. It doesn't matter. It's just we want to give them the chance to develop all this gradually. But every little thing helps, especially if at some point they're going to do exams and all kinds of other things. Rhythms and sounds. This is the chant. Yeah? Okay, we're dealing with numbers. How old are they? I don't think we've got the time, so I'm not going to be able to play the audio, I'm afraid. Okay, this again and again, you can go through it. I see a question here. Did you recommend something starting from the letters? No, absolutely not. Why not? Because the letters represent sounds, because it's spoken language first and then written language. I mean, in the natural order of things, so to speak. If they haven't got some familiarity with the sounds of the language, how are they going to cope with the letters? And anyway, if you think of English spelling, it's all over the place. So I think it's good to develop some kind of familiarity with the sound system of the language and then give them the chance to gradually develop reading, writing. Now, if they want to learn a chant with the alphabet because it makes them feel better, feel happy, parents feel happy, that's fine. That's a different thing altogether. But in their mother tongue, they have been able to develop their mother tongue, develop speaking for 8-9 years. But before they go to school to get on with literacy, they have been listening and speaking to the language for 5 or 6 years, and then they go through all that process of developing literacy skills. So let's give them a bit of time. They haven't got 6 years to go through, but let's give them a bit of time. Okay, words. Again, chant. Okay? And in the fun time, what they can do is obviously change the words, come up with their own chant. I've got 2 minutes left. Am I going too fast?
No, you're going just fine, Danai, really.
Yeah? Okay. Okay, fine. Yes, I know you've got many students in your classes with total physical response, but it's possible to do it with many students at the same time. I think what is important to remember is the type of work that you're doing in class, which needs to be collaborative. So it can't be teacher-students on a one-to-one basis throughout, because yes, then there's very little you can do, except maybe lecture or talk most of the time. But again, that's an issue that we'll deal with in the afternoon. Phonics. Okay, you mentioned letters. Should students memorize chants? Not necessarily, but they will if you make a habit of playing the chants time and time again when you begin the lesson, because you will see, let me move on from here. You will see in the teacher's book, sorry, I've just opened the pages of the teacher's book, of the teacher's guide. You will see a section that says getting started, with some ideas about what to do. That's recycling, but as you know your classes, I think it would be a great idea to go back and use the chants time and time again. About some of your teachers insist on using. No, I wouldn't use Arabic while presenting. Again, an issue that we'll discuss in the afternoon. There's no need for it, simply because, again, we're relying quite heavily on strengths that children have, and the strengths do include oral skills. So it's a shame to miss the chance. Okay, student's book. Workbook. Now the workbook is used, you will notice, with audio. So the students need to be able to use audio. I don't know if there are practical problems with that. I do hope not, because again, sound is very, very important. We do have to expose them to it. Okay. The activities in the workbook are manageable. They're not too challenging. Tracing, forming things, lots of it, again and again and again. I think it's important to make a distinction between what they can do in terms of literacy in their mother tongue and what they can do in English. In this case, it's not the same thing. Okay, in the teacher's book, you get teacher's notes. As you can see, this is a complete lesson. There's a goal check if you want to use it. I would really recommend teachers go through the teacher's note in the teacher's guide. And then, yes, of course they would adapt, and of course they would do things. But it was going to give you ideas of how to approach things. And obviously you can add more, you can adapt, you can do what you need to do to facilitate your learners. So this is what it looks like. Very useful. I think extension activities, okay? There are also extension activities included for each unit. The extension activities you can use instead of other activities. You can use them to start with. You can use them, as I said, to replace things. Yes, I can see the Arabic. I had noticed that on some of the things on videos. Yeah, we'll get to speaking mother tongue, I promise, when we in the afternoon. Okay. 3. Okay. Similar layout, a bit more demanding. Rhythms and listening again is listen and chant. Okay. Phonics. Now, but phonics are not simply sort of initial letter sounds and so on. You can have different activities here, but it is with listening. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Same thing. Now, in the back, at the back of your book, you also have optional phonics activities that you can use. But again, should you begin with phonics? No, of course not. Yes, teachers can drop the extension activities. You don't have to do them. But you might want to replace some other activity or have it as a remedial activity for somebody for a class that needs a bit more work on something. Okay, phonics. Phonics are used, as you know, in mother tongue as well, okay, with English-speaking kids, and whatever language, if you want to use phonics. But the thing is that, again, there has to be a basis, a sound basis, in order to use phonics. It's no use using phonics too soon if the children have not developed some familiarity with the sounds. Okay? So if you think they help, they're fun, children like them, okay? Chants like this one will please everybody. They're useful. They're good. Parents will be happy, okay? And everybody will be happy. And I think that's it for now. It's an hour. I'm sorry. It's hardly enough to go through everything, but we'll try and make up for things when we meet again this afternoon. And yes, I do promise to deal with mother tongue use in class and teacher speaking time and a few more points. And as you see, as you will see, you will also be getting a fairly long handout to take with you if you find it useful in the afternoon. So thank you all so much. And I am sorry there was a problem with, there was a problem connecting. I remember that was my problem. And you had to wait. And thank you all so much.
Thanks, Danai. Thank you so much. Can you just pass over the presentation rights over to me and we can just cover a few questions? if that's okay for everyone, because we have some brilliant questions that have come in, and I know Danai has already answered a lot of these for you, but if you have some time to stay on for the webinar, I know we have crossed 1 hour, but if you have some time to stay on, please do stay on and we will answer your questions now.
Sorry,
Danai?
Yes, I've been trying to. Oops.
Just change the slide for me.
It's all right.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay. As you know, as Danai has just mentioned, there is a 1 p.m. session today that we have in the afternoon. This is part 2 of the same session, elementary supervisor session. It's at 1 p.m. today. I am going to, if you have not registered for the webinar in the afternoon, you should be able to register via this link. I have just dropped it in the chat box. Please click on this link and select the second webinar series, which is making the most of available resources enabling learning. Write your name, write your email address, write your name as you would like it to appear on your certificate. So please don't write it in Arabic, or it's exactly how you want it on your certificate. And also just select the webinar, making the most of available resources, and hit submit or register. And then you will receive a confirmation email on your inbox and how to register, and everything should come follow through. I hope that answers your questions. One thing else that we have, before I move on to the Q&A, is a few questions to address. Is you only see yourself in the webinar. That's correct. You will only be seeing your name when you log into the webinar. Although there are 600 people in this webinar right now, but you will only be seeing your name. We just want to protect the identity of everyone who is attending the webinar. And a lot of people have asked, can we join the webinar at 1 p.m. using the same link? No, this link has expired because this link was for the webinar that was at 10 a.m. So for the webinar at 1 p.m., you need a new link. You cannot use the same link. And like I said, I have just dropped in the address, the link that you can register for the 1 p.m. webinar if you haven't already registered. In case you've already registered, you should have the link to join the webinar in your inbox. I hope that's clear enough. If it's not, please drop it in the chat or the Q&A. My colleagues will be able to help you out. One more thing to address here is please don't use your colleague's link to log in the webinar. I know I've received a couple of messages, and I understand it's absolutely fine. We know this is the first webinar that we did amongst the other ones that we're doing, so there are 20 more to go, and we've just covered one, so it's absolutely all right. This was the first one. We also have technical difficulties. It's absolutely all right to just figure out how you have to download WebEx, and it's a whole new world, so it's absolutely okay. But please try not to use your colleague's link to join the webinar. Your computer should be compatible to download WebEx, and you must have received an email to check how you can check your compatibility. The reason we asked you not to use your colleague's link is because the certificate will come under their name then, and we won't be able to do anything about it. So if you can just use the link that you have. If you're having any issues logging in, you can receive a confirmation email, because some of you have mentioned. Please make sure you're writing the correct email address when you register. Check your junk, junk folder, spam, anything. If you're still having an issue, please reach out to your supervisor. The email link should be working, Mr. Khalid. It should definitely be working. And someone said, please repeat what you said about the certificate. So I said you will receive the certificate once the webinar series is over, which is after November 19th. And also, one more thing is the name that you register with, please make sure it's the same name that you would like it to appear on the certificate. Salim, that's all I'm saying. And then I guess that covers it all. Do I need to register in the second session? If you've already registered for the first session, Ahmed, you don't need to register again. You will have the link in your inbox. And I guess I should now stop and move on to the Q&A now before taking any more time. Thank you so much, everyone. Okay, Danai, I'm just going to, I know time's up, but there were some great questions that I just want to ask, if that's possible.
Yes, of course.
One question is, what is the difference between teaching phonics and teaching rhythm?
They're two completely different things. Rhythm has to do with phonology, yeah? Phonics is, you use phonics in literacy, basically. Phonics are used to facilitate the sound letter symbol association, to put it roughly. So there are two different things. It's just that because there are sound elements, because they do have a sound aim, sound-related aim, and because chants and do have a rhythm and so on, it's good for memory as well. Sorry, being very clear here. The chants are really good for memorization. But memorization, not in the sense of sending the kids to home and asking them to memorize the chant as homework. But if you do the chants again and again and again, kids will pick them up. So it's mnemonics. They're going to be able to chant to themselves if they want to remember, for example, a letter or something. Can I just show you one of the examples just to try and make this a little clearer? We call it A, but say apple. It's from the phonics activities. It's a chant. So we call it A, but say apple. We call it A, so we say apron. We call it E, but we say elephant. We call it E, so we say 11. The idea is, this is one of the problems, yeah, because you have the same letter standing for different sounds. If they do use these chants time and time again, they tend to pick them up, to remember them. They're easier to remember, and they actually might kind of chant them to themselves to remember things like that. I don't know if that answers your question.
Thanks. We hope it does. Thank you, Vinay. There's another one that says, can you, if you don't mind, please provide us with some tips and suggestions to deal with low-level students from your experience?
I'm not sure whether you mean less confident students or just beginners.
I suppose it's less confident students.
If it's less confident students, give them the chance to repeat things, repeat again and again, make things meaningful. Don't make it totally mechanical. Use visuals to set up the context about what is happening, where, even if it's simple, like the lesson that you saw with what's this, what's that. So you've got the two kids, they're sitting somewhere with books behind them. Maybe it's a library, maybe it's a room, maybe it's in class, okay? But do you think they're friends or sisters? In the beginning, that's the only sort of case where you might justify using mother tongue when they haven't got enough language. So basically make sure they can notice those things and then move on with the actual exchange, which is what's this, what's that, repeat, repeat, repeat. Make things meaningful, illustrate things through pictures, always have pictures around to try and elicit as much as possible, repeat as much as possible, give the students enough time to speak. Try to restrict your speaking time and give the children time to speak. At the end of the day, they're the ones that need to learn the language. Again, they don't need to learn about the language. They need to learn the language. I hope that it? It's a very big question.
Thanks, Danai. We'll just take one more question now, and thank you so much for your questions. There are just 600 people, and we cannot address all of them now, but we have these questions with us, and we will get back to you about them. What is the difference between these words, photo, image, and picture?
Well, I think to a great extent they're being used interchangeably these days. Image is used to cover all, pretty much. A photo is a photograph. Okay? A picture is, for some people, something that has been drawn, has been created. Okay? But then again, you use the word picture to refer to photos, to snapshots. So I'm afraid, it's not always easy to distinguish. One of the things to do is to pay attention to which word is being used within an industry, in other words, in publishing, in education, and so on, in IT, in technology, and see whichever is higher frequency at that given time. Because things like that are changing, and they're changing extremely fast. So it's not always easy to distinguish in actual use. If you want to distinguish, you can look it up in the dictionary and find some differences. But I'm just answering the question on the basis of what is being used in different places.
Okay, one last question, sorry, because this is linked. The distinction between phonics and rhymes is the same between phonetics and photonology?
Come again, sorry?
I hope I'm reading this correct.
The distinction between phonics and rhymes is the same between phonetics and okay. Got it. Okay, rhythm. Yes, rhythm is a phonological feature, yeah? Phonics has to do with the system, if you like, the method that we use to help with initial literacy stages, initial reading, writing stages, to familiarize people with the written language, with the script.
Thanks, Tanai. And
Okay.
thanks everyone for joining us. I'm afraid we're up time, and we know you have important stuff to get to, but stay connected with us through our social channels on LinkedIn, social media, Facebook. You can also drop us an email. I guess I'll just drop the link again in case you've not registered. So if you have, you don't need this link, but if you haven't, you can register here. I've just dropped in the link, and we'll see you in the afternoon at 1 p.m. If you have any questions, drop them now. Otherwise, we'll see you at 1 p.m. Thank you so much for the session, making the most of available resources, enabling learning. This is an elementary supervisor session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your valuable time.
Thank you, Suresh.